All right, so we just learned about the bid optimization strategies. What are we going to talk about in this video?
So this video is actually putting these things into action. What type of schedule do you need for bid optimization? What KPIs should you be looking for to verify whether or not your bid optimization strategies are successful? Is it conversion rate? Is it CPC? Is it ACoS? Is it ROAS? We're going to talk about all those things.
Hold real quick. Before you guys started watching this video, that sentence might have sounded like total gibberish. So first of all, pat yourselves on the back that you just understood those acronyms and things that she is saying. That means you've already learned a lot about advertising. Go ahead.
On that note, we should probably include like a running acronym document for everyone here. So I will actually stop and say, if we ever say things that you don't quite understand, one, I have leaned really heavily on AI to help answer a lot of the things for me. I keep an AI window open, whether it's Gemini, whether it's ChatGPT, and be like, hey, what does CPA mean? What does ACoS mean in the realm of Amazon advertising? And that's going to give you some really good, quick hitting insights that can make everything we're talking about that much more informative. Now, going on to the last thing that we are going to talk about, because at some point you are going to understand all these acronyms and what we're describing as a good bid management strategy. Until then, we're going to dive into the bid templates that we actually have directly within Helium 10 ads that help kind of, I would say, piece together everything that you learned, but maybe you're not quite confident doing on your own. We have the templates in place that are incredibly easy, whether it's maximizing profitability, maximizing sales, launching a new product. We showcase the templates, we showcase the differences in the templates, and that can help you figure out what's best for your brand.
Let's hop right into it.
All right, so we've talked about the overview with bid management. Now let's put some of this into practice and take a look at everything. Now, in general, when it comes to bid management, there's a few best practices. One, make data-based decisions. That is incredibly, incredibly important. You'll hear a lot of people say, and I know Bradley and I've gone back and forth on this a few times of, how many clicks is the right amount of clicks before you adjust your bid? Some people say 10. If 10 people click and no one buys, you should adjust it. Some people say 20 people click and no one buys. At the end of the day, I think it depends on the product. And I like to say, imagine you're at a trade show. You're sitting at the booth and you're trying to sell your products. If 10 people walk up to your booth and don't buy, would you stop selling that product? Probably not. That's not enough data. If 100 people walked up to your booth and every single one of them said your product sucks, maybe that's a good sign. Now, that being said, what if your product costs $700? If your product costs $700, it's going to take a lot of convincing. So maybe 100 people isn't enough. If you're selling lemonade for 99 cents and 100 people stop by and say no, you got to fix that lemonade, right? This is really important to understand because clicks and the number of clicks you should allow before making an adjustment is really related to your price. And there's no perfect answer. It's really dependent on what your typical goals are, what you're trying to achieve. So I wanted to throw that out there. The next thing is we do not recommend aggressively making keywords negative. I know a lot of people recommend if you get 10 clicks and no one buys, negative that keyword. But again, we just gave a great example. If 10 people clicked on your ad, they were interested in buying. If they didn't check out, ask yourself, why didn't they check out? Why did they click on a relevant keyword and not buy? Maybe your listing's not that competitive, or maybe you have a bad review, or maybe there's something that's turning people away. That's a better question to ask, not necessarily negating that keyword because, again, they clicked and they were interested. That being said, if it's a keyword that's 100% not related and it's never going to drive a conversion, you're selling iPhone cases and someone types in Android case. You're selling an iPhone 5 model and someone searches for a 3. Those are scenarios worth negating, as we've talked about. The next thing I'd say is we have to wait until we have enough clicks to justify a decision. So again, making database decisions, if you only have 1 to 2 clicks, it's not enough to know whether or not you should pause a keyword or lower the bid. You just don't have enough data. I typically like to look for 20 to 25 for average price products, anything from $20 to $40. If you have a high price point product, again, it's going to take more convincing. So you need to show more people your products. Maybe it's 40 to 50 clicks that makes a difference. The next thing is to frequently update your bids. The market is constantly changing. Your product's constantly changing. Now, you may not be actually changing your product, but you're probably adjusting your price. You're probably getting more reviews. Your competitor may be increasing their price. All of those things are going to change whether or not someone buys your product. If your number one competitor increases their price by $10, you're probably going to see more sales. If you get a 1-star review and drop down to 3.7 stars, you're going to see less sales. You're going to have a lower conversion rate. That market changing is going to change your bid strategy. You convert better, you should increase your bid. You convert worse, you should lower your bid. So that's why it's so important to frequently update your bids. You have to have some level of bid automation running, whether it's software or your personal Excel sheet. You need to have something running to adjust to the market and how frequently customers change. Now, personally, we look at the last 30 days in order to get a better view of my conversion rate relative to the market. And we frequently update our bids. Now, I'm not going to give an exact answer here. In the beginning, I would update my bids every 2 days. That's when I would go in and make adjustments. I would go every 2 days, look back the last 30 days of data in order to make a decision, because I want to know in a broader time frame how well I'm converting. And then I'm going to update every 2 days to account for any massive changes in the market. For some people, 2 days is going to be way too frequent because maybe they don't get that many clicks. Maybe they have low bids. So they need to wait 4 to 5 days to update their bids. On the flip side, I've seen brands that will get 30,000 clicks in 1 day because they're spending a lot of money. But if you get that many clicks in 1 day, you should update much more frequently to account for your brand and the market, which obviously have so much foot traffic that's changing really frequently. Now, this took me a really long time to learn. Bradley, out of curiosity, do you optimize your bids by hand, or can you hop in and still do yours by hand?
I probably could, but I would not want to, just because I've got like 250, 300 campaigns in the accounts I manage, and I've been doing it with software so long that I don't even know. Like, I'd have to take like a full day off of work if I were to go back to the old school days.
It takes a lot of time to learn. And I think that's really important. Like, it's not, some people are going to pick it up. If you're, great at algebra, you're great in high school algebra, you may pick up on it really fast. It took me quite some time. Here's a formula I use that helped me conceptualize the math behind bid ops and bid optimization. So this is a practice formula I use to help me start to understand bid management. If you're watching this video, I highly recommend you pause and you open up your advertising console. You go to your targeting tab. We're going to do this together in a little bit, but highly recommend you do it yourself now. Open up the targeting tab and start playing around and testing this formula. What we're going to do is we're going to take your sales, again, filter by last 30 days, also filter down by spend. I like to look at my highest spending targets first. So last 30 days, highest spending targets, they're up in my window. Start playing around with this formula. Like, pull out a calculator and do this by hand to help you start conceptualizing. Take your sales times your target ACoS. That's going to show you what your maximum spend should be. Take that maximum spend and divide it by your actual number of clicks for that keyword. That's going to show you what your bid should have been. Look at your bid and look at your CPC. The CPC is what you did pay. The bid is what you're going to adjust to now that you understand your conversion rate and your ACoS formula. Play around with this. Go through 7 or 8 and start seeing, if my bid was lower, my ACoS would have been this. I recommend doing this by hand for a few days. That's going to help you start understanding intuitively what your bid should be in order to hit a certain ACoS or a certain ROAS. Now, a few things to note. I always focus on my highest spending targets first. That's what's going to achieve your ACoS ROAS goals the quickest. It's 80-20 in that regard. You can run this formula to everything, but I 80-20 it when I'm doing this by hand. The second thing to note is your bid may not always equal your CPC. So your bid's what you're putting in, as you can see. I put in a 39-cent bid. My CPC is 64 cents. This is really important to note. If my bid is lower than my CPC, that means I've optimized my term to be a little bit cheaper. I can't afford that. If your bid is higher than your CPC, that means that you may be bidding too much, that the CPC is lower and the market's not quite there. So you're trying to bid higher and you're trying to make up for more sales. So that's kind of one thing that's important to consider. If your bid is higher than what you're already paying, you may make up more sales, or you may not hit that target because no one else in the market is bidding it. So just kind of keep that in mind loosely. But again, open up your targeting tab and start running this formula. You don't need to change your bid. Just look at it. Is the recommended bid lower than what you're bidding right now? Is it higher than what you're bidding right now? That can really help you understand where you need to be. Now, one thing to note, when it comes to setting your target ACoS, there's no perfect answer. A lot of people like to shoot for breaking even on their Amazon ads. Maybe they have a 30% margin. They're going to shoot for a 30% ACoS. They're not making money on their ads. They know that by running ads, their organic rank's going to improve and they're going to make money from their organic sales. If you're launching a product, maybe you want a 100% ACoS. That's typically where Bradley and I hear people like to be around, because you're going to lose money from your ads, but ideally make money from your organic rank again. So there's no perfect answer for your target ACoS. Don't let anyone tell you there is. It really depends on your personal cash flow. Once you do set that target ACoS, you can utilize this formula to help you work backwards on what's important for you. Now, let's go back to the example we kind of talked about earlier. Let's say I want to show up number 1 on the page in the shampoo placement that you're seeing right there. Let's say I'm advertising Pantene, $17.99. Let's say I want to bid $5. We're going to do the exact same math we did in reverse. That $5 placement, if I'm converting at 35%, I'm getting 100 clicks because that's what I've decided is my threshold for optimization. At a 35% conversion rate, that means if I get 100 clicks, I have 35 orders. If I have 100 clicks and I'm paying a $5 bid, that means I spent $500. At a 35% conversion rate, I had 35 people order, $17.99 product. That means I drove $629 in sales. So my ACoS is 80%. It's probably not profitable, right? But I'm showing up number 1 on the page, which means I'm going to maximize my sales. I'm going to drive as much sales as possible if I'm showing up number 1 on the page and I have a good offer. High ACoS, high sales, right? But let's say I decide I can't afford that. I need to lower my bid. I need to focus on more profitability. So let's say I lower my bid to $1. That exact same math, if I'm still converting on a 35% conversion rate, I can see will get me a 16% ACoS. It's a huge, huge difference. $5 bid, 80% ACoS. $1 bid, 16% ACoS. So now, why wouldn't we all just run with low bids? Well, the main reason is we're not going to get a lot of visibility. I can tell you in that category, a $1 bid, I'm going to show up on page 4. It's such a competitive category that it's not going to get me that far. So I'm going to drive 1 to 2 orders a month on that. It's not possible. So my job as an advertiser needs to be to find that middle ground of profitability and still getting visibility. So maybe I decide I can't bid on the term shampoo. It's too expensive. If I bid $1, I don't show up. So maybe I start looking for other opportunities. Maybe I look for daily moisture renewal, safe for color shampoo. I'm going to start looking for those keywords that are a little bit cheaper because not everyone's going to bid on it. So I can bid $3 and still show up on page 1. That's really how bid optimization works. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. You have to find what's best for your brand based on your margin and your category. I worked in supplements, which has $30 bids to be at the top of the page. On the flip side, I've worked in B2B, which has had 17 cents. It's really important because there's no perfect solution. You have to come up with the combination right for your product and your category and the demand of the market. That's why bid automation is really difficult, and that's why software can be so helpful. I'll show you a few examples of bad bid management and a good target, and the reverse, and then we're going to open up Ad Console and look at some of these live. This was an example I pulled from a campaign. As you can see here, the conversion rate is fantastic. We have a 35% conversion rate. It's a really good target. It's a good keyword I've chose to bid on. Now, as you can see, it's a 220% ACoS. A lot of people will be like, negate that keyword, pause that keyword. It's a terrible keyword. And I'm like, no, it's a fantastic keyword. 35% of the people that click on that keyword buy my product. It's a top keyword. As you can see, the reason the ACoS is bad is because my CPC is $21. Someone chose to bid $21 on this keyword. Is the keyword bad? No. Well, a lot of people think the keyword's bad because the ACoS is high. Yes. In reality, it's the bid that's bad. If I were to lower my bid to $3 to $4, this would be a very profitable term for me because my conversion rate is so fantastic. So it's really important to understand that. Don't just go through and pause bad ACoS terms. Look at that term and say, is it converting well? Is it good? Can I fix my bid? That needs to be the priority focus. On the flip side, here's a really good bid management and a terrible target. This target has less than 2% conversion rate. That is terrible. As you can see, 1,100 people have clicked here. Only 20 bought. That is terrible. This is another scenario. Most people would go in and pause that term because it converted so terribly. But I bid so low that it's actually a break-even term for us. It's driving sales. It's driven $600 in sales. Not a lot. It's a very cheap bid, but it's still profitable for me. So as you're scrolling through your ad console, keep these things in mind. What is your conversion rate on those targets? Are people clicking and buying? Is it a good term? Yes, maybe I can bid more aggressive. Are people clicking and not buying? It's a bad target. Maybe we can bid a little bit lower and drive slow sales from that term because I'm good with my bid management. Now, those are some examples. Let's open up Ad Console and walk through this live. So we're back in Ad Console. We have navigated to our targeting tab. So I'm just going to go to Campaign Manager and walk through this again to show you all. I'm in Ad Console. I prefer going to what is called the Targeting tab, which is going to show us all of the keywords we're bidding on in one place. Now, as for right now, I have year-to-date selected just so we have a decent amount of data to show us. And as you can see, we can scroll down really quick and look at our conversion rates. Is there anything that stands out? This is a strong conversion rate. Anything that's maybe not a great conversion rate, we can also see here. But the really important thing to understand is to, again, start looking at our bids and our CPCs. Having all of this data together can kind of help us see in real time, should we be making any adjustments? This is a great example. 191% ACoS. I flagged that as bad. Now, is it bad because I'm converting poorly? Or is it bad because of my bid? It's my next thing I'm going to look at. Conversion rate's low, but it's really not terrible compared to everything else that we're bidding on. So I'm going to keep it. It's not terrible. You can see here, my CPC, how much I was paying for this was $1.49. That was the problem. I couldn't afford this keyword because of my conversion rate. People are clicking but not buying. As you can see, once you lower the bid, you have a much higher likelihood of driving profitability. That is how your bid management decisions need to look. And again, I recommend doing it by hand for quite some time until you start understanding the opportunity here. On the flip side, let's say, look, we have a 23% ACoS. It's fantastic. Our bid looks pretty good. Maybe we have opportunity to increase our bid because we want to drive more sales. We know that our substitutes is doing really well for us within that auto campaign. Let's increase our bid to drive more sales. That's really the core of bid management. It's pretty easy when we do it in this fashion, but when you have hundreds of campaigns and hundreds of products and different time frames and different campaign strategies, it gets really complicated. But you can kind of see the targeting tab makes things a lot easier and a lot more efficient to start managing at scale.
All right, so now you are an expert level. Well, maybe not quite an expert, but you're halfway there at understanding how to manage your bids, which again is a crucial aspect of this advertising journey that you're on. But this journey is by no means complete. The next group of modules, what are we going to be getting into?
Well, we've talked a lot about what you should do. You should optimize your bids. You should have good keyword research. This next section is going to be, maybe there's things that you shouldn't do. Maybe there's terms you should not bid on. So what we're going to dive into next is just negative targeting and exclusions. How do you figure out what terms maybe you shouldn't be investing on and make the decision to move them to negative targeting list?
All right, we'll see you guys in the next group of modules.